In this video, we will try and solve the question that you see on your screen. So what I would suggest is you pause the video for a moment and go through the question. So I hope you have gone through the question. Now, what we'll do is, like always, we'll break up the problem into sub-problems and solve each one of them. The first thing that we have to do is we have to create the two tables that you can see. The first table being employee and the second table being department. The employee table has four attributes: the employee ID, the employee name, the salary received by the employee, and the department name for which the employee works. And the department table, there are two attributes: the first attribute representing the department name, and the second attribute representing the location in which the department is situated. Now, what you can understand is the employee table and the department table are related to each other. Now, that information can be found in the constraints that you see. See, it's been clearly mentioned that all departments are located in one of the locations, Kolkata, Bangalore, and Chennai. And then if you go on to read the last paragraph, it has been clearly mentioned that we have to increase the salary of all employees from Kolkata by 10% and decrease the salary of all employees from Bangalore by 5%. Now, if you're talking about the salary as well as the location of an employee, you're talking about two tables, right? Because the salary attribute can be found in the employee table, sal. The sal attribute represents the salary of an employee and it is present in the employee table, whereas the location of the department at which the employee works is present in the department table and is given by the attribute LOC. So as a result, we'll have to handle two pieces of information. The first piece is the salary of the employee. As you can see, the salary of the employee, we'll have to check the salary of, in fact, we'll have to update the salary of the employees, and we'll have to check the location. What is the location? The location is either Kolkata, where you increase by 10%, or the location is Bangalore, where you decrease by 5%. Now, the interesting thing is, like I mentioned, the the department location, rather, the department location is present in the department table, whereas the salary of the employee is present in the employee table. So we'll have to work with both these tables at the same time. Now, in order to be able to do that, we have to come up with a way to join the two tables. Although nothing has been mentioned regarding primary key and foreign key of these tables, with some intuition, you can probably understand that the ID attribute of the employee table will act as the primary key, because the employee ID of every employee happens to be a unique value, and the department name of the department table becomes the ideal candidate for a primary key, because the department names will all be unique. So having understood uh, these points where we have figured out the primary keys as well as the foreign key. So the foreign key will be the dname attribute present in the employee table. It will refer to the dname primary key attribute present in the department table. Having established the primary key and foreign key relationships between the two tables, we are in a good position to start creating the tables employee and department. Now, the important thing that you must keep in mind is, which table should you create first? Should you create the employee table first, or should you create the department table first? Now, does it matter? Of course it does. If there is a dependent relationship through foreign key between two tables, then it's important to figure out which table is dependent on the other. We can understand that the dname attribute of the employee table will refer to the dname attribute of the department table. As a result, we can conclude that the employee table is dependent on the department table. Now, since the employee table is dependent on the department table has to be created first. The table which is dependent is created next. Remember, the table on which another table is dependent has to be created first, and the table which is dependent on the first table has to be created next. So here, employee depends on department. As a result, the dependent table, or let's put it this way, the table on which a particular table is dependent is department, because employee is dependent on department. And which table is depending? The table which is depending on department is the employee table. So since employee is dependent on, or the value of an employee attribute is dependent on the department table's attribute, we have to create the department table first and then go on to create the employee table. So let's just copy these two tables, the schema, and let's move to our notepad. So like I have always mentioned throughout my earlier videos as well, it's advisable to create or to write all your SQL code in a notepad and then paste it in the SQL prompt. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create the department table. So let's do that. So we'll use the create table syntax. So we'll say create table. The name of the table is department. So I write department, create table department, and then I'll list out the attributes. The first attribute, as you can see, is dname, and the dname attribute obviously represents the department name, and it has to be a string attribute. That means an attribute which accepts string values. So the data type will be varchar2, and we can give it a size of 50, right? And it will also be our primary key. So we'll write that. So writing primary key beside the attribute will make it the primary key attribute. And now the next attribute that we have to handle is the LOC attribute, which represents the department location. So what we'll do is, after writing dname, we'll write LOC, and again department location is also a string data type. So string data type is represented by varchar2, and let's give it a size of 20. And now the interesting thing that you have probably realized by now is that these constraints, while creating the tables, we have to keep the highlighted constraints in mind. Now, the constraint on the salary table, or the constraint on the salary attribute, is defined when we'll create the employee table. But for now, we are creating the department table, and we can see that there is one constraint on the department table. It has been clearly mentioned that all departments are located in one of the following locations, that is Kolkata, Bangalore, and Chennai. So we'll have to use a check constraint such that if anyone tries to insert a record which takes a different value other than Kolkata, Bangalore, or Chennai for the LOC attribute, it will report an error. And not only will it report an error, it will stop the insertion from going ahead. So what we'll do is, let me just copy this so that I can keep it in mind. Yeah, so this is what I have to keep in mind, right? So all departments are located in one of the following locations, Kolkata, Bangalore, and Chennai. So what I'll do is, after defining the LOC attribute, I'll write a check constraint. So how do you write a check constraint? You write CHECK, check, and then within parentheses, you write the logical expression. Now what will the logical expression be? The logical expression will be such that the LOC attribute will take any of these values, either Kolkata, Bangalore, or Chennai. So we can use the in operator. So I can say LOC in, and I can specify the list of values that my LOC attribute, that you see here, can take. So what are the list of values that it can take? It can take Kolkata, Bangalore, and Chennai. I'll simply copy this. So, and I'll paste it here. So let me just remove the single quotes first, then I'll put it back again. So in, now the in clause, using the in clause, we are able to check whether the attribute on the left of in. So this is my in clause. The attribute on the left of the in clause, or on the left of this in keyword, is LOC. So what this in clause does is, it takes the attribute on the left hand side, which is LOC in this case, and checks whether it takes any of these values or not, Kolkata or Bangalore or Chennai. If any value other than the three that you see highlighted on your screen is inserted, then it will report an error and stop the insertion from going ahead. Now, since these are string constants, I need to enclose them within quotes. You can either use single quotes or double quotes, and I'll separate the values using commas. So Kolkata is separated from Bangalore by a comma, and I'll just remove this and Bangalore is separated from Chennai using a comma, and again Chennai will be within single quotes. Now this is the list of attributes. So I'm specifying the list of, not attributes, sorry, I'm specifying the list of values that my attribute LOC can take. So this is how you would write a check constraint, right? You write check and then you give the logical expression within parentheses, like you can see highlighted. And then I'll finally close off my create table syntax. I'll give a semicolon. Now what I'll do is, I'll simply copy this. I'll copy this and I'll go to my SQL prompt, and okay, now before pasting, I need to log in. So I'll say SQL plus, it will ask for the username. I'll enter the password, And as you can see, I'm granted access. So I'll just clear the screen for you so that you can understand. Now I'll just paste this code, hit enter, and I can see that a table has been created successfully. Okay. Now my first task is over. I have successfully managed to create the department table. Now what I'll do is I'll create the employee table. So let me go back to my notepad file. Yes. And now I'll move on to creating the employee table. So what I'll do is it's the same thing. I'll say create table, just copy this. I'll say create table. And what is the name of my table that I want to create? The name of my table is employee. So I'll say create table employee, and then I'll write down the attributes, their names, their types, as well as their size. So I'll say ID, and as if you look up the constraints which have been given, it has been clearly mentioned that every employee ID must begin with EMP. So we have to keep this in mind. Not only ID is my primary key, it will also ensure that all ID values start with these three letters EMP. Okay. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to mention its type. So what is the type? Since it will contain the letters EMP, you can understand that it will contain string values, and for string values, the data type is varchar2. So I'll say varchar2 of 10. I'll give it a size of 10. I'll make it my primary key. So it becomes my primary key attribute. And now what I'll do is, again, I'll come up with a check constraint. So what is the constraint? I'll say check, and then within parentheses I'll write the logical expression. And what is the logical expression? I need to ensure that the ID begins with EMP. Now you can see that this is a pattern, right? This EMP, the three letters that you can see, EMP, this represents a pattern. Now for pattern matching, we use the like clause. If you remember from your basic SQL lessons, for pattern matching, we always use the like clause. So I'll say check ID like, and what is the string? The string is EMP. So it should start with EMP. Now after EMP, it can have 0 or more characters. And to denote this, we'll use ampersand. So remember the ampersand wildcard. This is a wildcard, right? The ampersand wildcard is used for pattern matching with the like clause, and it represents 0 or more characters. That means the ID value has to start with EMP, and it can be followed by 0 or more characters, just like it has been mentioned here. It has been clearly mentioned that the ID must begin with EMP. So after the phrase or after the term EMP, you can have any letters or characters that you want. So that's the only constraint that we need to check. We need to check the beginning of the ID value. So the beginning has to be EMP. That's why I've written EMP. Now following EMP, you can have 0 or more characters, and they can be anything. So in order to ensure that happens, I have used percent, because percent is a wildcard which denotes 0 or more characters. Had it been exactly one character that I had to check, then I would have used underscore. Since the EMP phrase can be followed by multiple letters or multiple symbols, I'm using percent. So this will take care of the constraint that has been mentioned here, that the employee ID must begin with EMP. And it has also been mentioned that the minimum salary should be 12,000. Okay. So as far as the ID attribute is concerned, I'm done, right? I'm done with the constraints on the ID attribute. The first constraint was that it had to be a primary key. And the second constraint was that it had to begin with EMP. Now, after I'm done with ID, next what I have to do is I have to go for the next attribute. The next attribute that you can see on your screen is the name attribute. And the names of employees, again, are nothing but collection of characters. So its data type will also be varchar2. So I'll say varchar2 of 100. And next, and of course, what you can do is you can add an extra constraint. You can say not null, because names of employees can never take null values. So if anybody tries to play mischief and enter a null value for the name of an employee, that will be blocked, and an error will also be reported. And the next attribute that you can see following name is the sal attribute. So I'll say salary. Okay, I'll just change the name of the attribute. Salary, makes more sense. So I'll just say salary. You can keep it sal, no problem. I'll make it salary so that it's easier for me to explain. So I'll say salary, and the constraint was the salary has to be at least 12,000. Now, the first things first, I need to mention the type. So the type of salary will obviously be an integer value, because salary can never be in fractions. Nobody receives salary in point values. So after defining the data type of the salary attribute, I have to enforce the constraint, which is that the salary has to be at least 12,000. So again, I'll use the check clause. So I'll say check, and within parentheses, I'll supply the logical expression. And what is the logical expression? That the salary has to be greater than or equal to 12,000. So unless and until this condition is satisfied, the insertion will not go through. And I'll show you that, don't worry. So after I'm done with salary, I need to come up with the next attribute, which is dname. Now remember, dname is a foreign key as well. But after writing the name of the attribute, what I need to do is I need to mention its type, and it's a string, so its type will be varchar2. And let's say the size of the attribute is 50, and it is a foreign key, so it is referencing, right? So I'll say, in order to establish a foreign key, I'll use the references clause. So I'll say REFERENCES, references. Which table does it reference? It references the department table. And which attribute of the department table will it depend on? It will depend on the dname attribute of the department table. So this is how you would write a foreign key. You write the name of the attribute which you want to make a foreign key. So you write the name of the attribute first, then you give it its type, then you give the size of the attribute, then you write the references keyword, and then you write the name of the table which you want to make as your foreign key, or the table on which the attribute will be depending. Okay, so moving on. Here we are referencing the department table and the attribute that we are depending on. That means the dname attribute depends on the dname attribute of the department table. So after we are done with this, let's close this off, copy this, just copy this, and let me paste it in my SQL prompt. Now if I paste this and if I hit enter, I can see that the table has been successfully created. So now I have created the department table as well as the employee table. So my first job is done. Now, next thing that we have to do is we have to write the PLSQL code. But before writing the PLSQL code, in order to receive concrete results, we have to fill up this table. We have to populate this table. Now again, which is the table that contains the foreign key? The employee table contains the foreign key, and it is dependent on the department table. So what do we need to do is we need to create that, we need to insert records into the department table first. So let's do that. Let's insert records into our department table. So I'll say insert into, and what is the name of the table? The name of the table is department, and the values that I want to insert are, let's say, finance. The location is Kolkata, and similarly, then I'll just copy paste this. Let's say I'm keeping 4 departments. First one being finance, the next one being, let's say, marketing, the third one being operations, and the fourth one being HR. Let me just change the locations. So the first two are Kolkata. The third one, let me make it Bangalore. And the fourth one, let me make it Chennai. Right? So these are the 3 valid locations. So let me just copy paste this, and I'll show you one thing. Since if you remember, the constraint on the location attribute, the constraint on the location attribute of my department table was that it can take only the values Kolkata, Bangalore, and Chennai. So if I try to insert anything other than these 3 values, it will report an error. I'll show you. So in this way, you can verify whether the check clause works or not. So I'll say, let's say I put in Mumbai, and I insert another department called analytics. Now you'll see that the first 4 insertions will proceed smoothly, but we'll get an error for the last insertion. I'll show you. So let me copy this. Let me open up my prompt. If I paste this, you can see that for the first 4 records, it has been created successfully. But in the 5th case, I'm getting an error because I'm violating the constraint of having a different value for my location attribute other than Kolkata, Bangalore, and Chennai. So this will not go ahead, And if I do a select star, I can see that all values have been inserted correctly. So I'll say select star from department. So if I do that, I can see that the values have come in. Now, after this, so I'll just erase this because it's not a valid record. Now, next what I'll have to do is I'll have to populate my employee table. Now, in order to populate my employee table, I'll do the same thing. So I'll say insert into employee and I'll give the values. So what are the values? Say EMP1. Here also I'll show you a few cases where if I try to violate the constraints which I have imposed while creating the table, I will receive errors. Let me just create some valid entries first. So the name of the employee is Domingo. He receives a salary of, let's say, how much? Let's say 40,000. And he works in the operations department, right? Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll simply copy this and I'll paste it repeatedly. So let me create, how many employees should I create? Let me create 8 employees, okay? So that makes 6, 2 more, yeah. So 8 employees. Now since the ID is a primary key, I need to change the ID values. So I'll say EMP4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And now what about the names of the employees? The names of the employees are Saurav, Sandeep, let's say Pritam, Shundipan. These are my friends, right? The names you can probably figure out. They're all my friends working at top-notch companies. And let's say for the last employee, let's say I try to violate some constraint. Now, Suresh, I have no friend by the name of Suresh, so I'll take that liberty. And now what I'll do is, let's say I try to insert a salary value which is less than 12,000. So let's say I try to insert 10,000. Okay, let me change the salary values as well, right? So let me make this 80,000. So this will be quick, right? Just give me a moment. So you can probably see that I have created rows. I'm trying to create rows with some unique values for salary as well as the departments. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll simply copy these statements and I'll paste it in my SQL prompt. So let me just clear the screen for you. And now you can see that all rows, see, all the rows have been successfully created. See, the first, second, third, fourth, you can clearly see that 7 rows have gone in successfully. But for the 8th row, since I'm trying to insert a salary value which is less than 12,000, I've been blocked. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll say select star from employees, right? That's the name of my table. So in fact, it's employee. So I'll say select star from employee, and you can see that the formatting is not that great. It's very difficult for me to make out the values for the attributes of each row. So what I'll do is I'll make some changes. I'll say set line size, I'll make it 100, and I'll just format the name attribute column. So I'll say column name format, and I'll say A20. After doing this, if I do a select star, I can see that the output shows up in a proper form. So you can figure this out, right? How to do a bit of formatting, a bit of trial and error, so that your columns fit in perfectly on the screen. Now you can see that 7 rows have been inserted perfectly, and I have 7 employees working at an organization. So now I have all the records with me. I have created 2 tables successfully. Now, the big step is about to begin. What is the big step? The big step is to write this PL/SQL code, and we have to use Cursor, right? Now, you probably have a fair idea about cursors. It's a temporary storage area which will hold records from your table. So what I'll do is I'll again open up my notepad and I can just erase this. I'll just erase the last entry because it was an invalid entry. And now I'll write the PLSQL code. And as I write along, I'll explain. So I'll say declare, and I'll create a variable called MID. So this will be, and this will be a variable whose type. So I want to say that I have an employee table. Now the employee table has an ID attribute, right? It has an ID attribute. So I say employee.id. This means that take the ID attribute of the employee table. Take the ID attribute of the employee table, percent type. So percent type, what it will do is it takes the ID attribute of the employee table and it finds out its type. It finds out its data type, and it takes that data type and gives it to my variable MID. So I hope you've understood this. I'm creating a variable called MID, which will have the same data type as the ID attribute of my employee table. Next, what I'll do is, similarly, I'll create a variable called mLocation to store the location value, right? The LOC attribute value from the department table. To store that, I'll create a variable called mLocation. And what will it be? Its type? Its type will be department dot LOC. So take the LOC attribute of the department table, find out its type, and give it to my mLocation variable. And lastly, I'll have a variable called mSalary. And what I'll do is I'll say employee dot salary. That means take the salary attribute of the employee table, find out its type, and assign it to my mSalary variable. I'll use a variable called tempvar, a temporary variable, for some checking purpose, which you will see soon. And finally, I'll create a cursor. So I write how to create a cursor. I'll say cursor. I'll use the keyword cursor, and I'll give the name of the cursor. The name of the cursor, let me say it is employee underscore details. So emp underscore details. And then I'll write the is clause. And then I'll write the SQL statement for selecting the values from my table. So what will I say? I'll say select. So what are the values that I need? See, I need the ID attribute value, of course, in order to be able to update every record uniquely. See, if I have to update one row at a time, I need to have a where clause which will specify that, okay, I'm updating only one row at a time. If I don't include the where clause in my update statement, it will try and update all the rows of the table, and that will create a problem. To be able to update only one row at a time, I need to have a where clause in my update statement, and the where clause in the update statement will use the ID attribute value of my employee table. So I need the ID attribute value. That's why I'm writing it in the select attribute list. So I'll say select ID, comma, of course I need the salary because that is what I'll be updating, and the updating will depend on the location. So I need the location attribute as well. And now these three attributes, you can probably realize, are not present in a single table. The ID attribute and the salary attribute are present in the employee table, whereas the LOC attribute is present in the department table. So what I do is I say from employee, and I use aliasing. So instead of writing employee every time, I want to shorten it to E. So after employee, if I give a space and write E, that means from now onwards, I can refer to the employee table with a single letter as E. In this statement only, mind you, only in the current statement which I'm writing, I can refer to the employee table by the letter E. And similarly, to avoid the long name department and to avoid unnecessary spelling mistakes, I'll shorten the department table name to D. And there you have it. You have two tables being combined, and on which attribute will it be combined? It will be combined on the foreign key primary key relationship, and that exists between the dname attributes of both tables. So I'll say where E, that means employees dname attribute, is same as the department's dname attribute. So that will be e.dname equal to d.dname. e.dname is equal to d.dname, and I'll give a semicolon. So this line will create my cursor. It will populate my temporary memory storage with the required values. And after I'm done with this, after I'm done with the declaration block, I can start the begin block. And the begin block, the first thing that I need to do is I need to open up my cursor. So I'll say open and I'll give the name of the cursor. The name of the cursor is employee details. Of course, if you're looking to fetch some values from a storage location, the first thing that you need to do is you need to open that storage location. Let's say I want to take out a shirt from my cupboard. The first thing that I need to do is I need to open the cupboard. Only then I'll be able to take out my shirt. Similarly, if you're trying to access values from a cursor, you need to first open that cursor. And in order to open the cursor, you need to have this statement where you write the keyword open followed by the name of the cursor. And then you will have the loop. Of course, you will be going through one record at a time. So you'll be looping through every record. And as you loop, what will you do? You will fetch. So you'll use the keyword fetch in order to get one record at a time. So what will you fetch? In fact, where will you fetch from? You will fetch from the cursor emp underscore details. So you write that. So you say fetch emp underscore details. And where do you want to fetch all the details? You want to fetch the details in the variables that you have declared. So you have declared the variables MID, you have declared the variable mLocation, and you have declared the variable mSalary. So what you will do is you will fetch the record. Now the record will contain these values. It will contain ID, salary, and LOC. And they have to go into the corresponding variables MID, mLocation, and mSalary for you to be able to perform the check operations. So I'll say fetch the name of the cursor, the into clause, and then I'll give the name of the variables in which I want to store the values of the record. I want to store the values of the attributes of the record. So they have to be in this order. See, how have I written the select statement? In the select statement, I have mentioned the ID attribute first, followed by the salary attribute, followed by the LOC attribute. So I'll have to maintain that order in my fetch clause as well. So I have to write into MID for the ID attribute, then M salary. Please be very careful with the spellings. And then I also need to be careful. I don't know whether I'm making any typos or not. If I do, then some unnecessary or unwanted error messages will show up. So we'll see about that. I just hope I don't make too many errors because it eats up on our time. And the third variable being mLocation, where I'll store the location attribute value. And till what time I'll carry out this fetch operation? I'll carry out this fetch operation as long as I have records to fetch. So I'll say exit when the cursor, the name of the cursor is emp underscore details. So I'll always refer to the cursor by name, and the name of the cursor is emp underscore details. So I'll keep on fetching till I do not find any more records. And in order to check whether any more records is present or not, I'll use the percent not found clause. So I'll say percent not found, and this will check whether any record is present or not. If no other record is present, it will come out of the loop. And after I'm done with this, what will I do? I'll check. What will I check? I'll check the location. So the location attribute value is stored in my variable mLocation. And what will I check? I'll check whether the location is Kolkata or not. If the location happens to be Kolkata, I need to perform an updation where the salary will be increased by 10%. If you remember, see in the question, it has been clearly mentioned that you have to increase the salary in Kolkata or the salary of employees working at Kolkata by 10%. So I need to write an update statement accordingly. So what will I say? I'll say update and I write the name of the table. The name of the table is employee, and then I'll set the salary attribute. So I'll set the, sorry about that. I'll set the salary attribute and I'll set it to 10%. I'll increase it by 10%. So for that, I'll write salary, take the old salary value or the current salary value and increase it by 10%. Now, multiplying the salary attribute value by 10% is same as multiplying it by 0.1 because 10 by 100 is 0.1. So I'll say 0.1 times salary. And of course, if I leave it at this point, then what will happen? It will update all the rows. It will update all the rows where the location is Kolkata. But I don't want that. I don't want all updations to happen at one go. I don't want that. Okay. I want it to happen row by row. So that's why I'll have a where clause. Now, what will the where clause contain? The where clause will contain the constraint that update it only for that row where the ID attribute is same as the ID attribute value which has been fetched into my variable MID, which effectively means that update it for the current row only. Update it for the current row only. If I want to update it for one row, and which row? The row which I've just fetched. The row which I've just fetched. If I want to update it only for that row, I need to have this where clause. And after I'm done with this, what will I do? I will have an else if block. So I'll say else if. This is how you write else if, ELSIF. And again, I'll check. What will I check? I'll check the location. And what will I check for? I'll check for Bangalore. So if the location happens to be Bangalore, now I have to be very careful. I'll tell you why. So if the location happens to be Bangalore, I'll have to carry out the updation. But before that, I need to check one thing. And here is where my temporary variable temp var comes in. So what I'll do is I'll just calculate the 5% decrease. If you observe, if you remember that all employees from Bangalore will undergo a cut of 5% in their salary. So what I'll do is I'll first calculate this deduction and I'll store it in the temp var variable. So what I'll say is the salary attribute value of the current record is currently present in the variable M salary. And from that, I'll deduct 5%. So deducting 5% is like multiplying the salary value by 5 by 100. And 5 by 100 is same as 0.05. So I'll say 0.05 times M salary. Now, after I deduct, now I'll check. What will I check? I'll check whether this reduction is violating the first constraint or not. Please don't forget that there is a constraint. There is a constraint that all salary values have to be at least 12,000. That means, see, if you remember this check constraint, which we had imposed while creating the table, that every salary value has to be greater than or equal to 12,000. So I'll have to check that if a deduction is causing the salary value to go below 12,000, if the deduction is causing the salary value to go below 12,000, I'll have to stop the updation from going ahead. And what I'll do is I'll simply display a statement. I'll say dbms. So in order to print a statement, I'll say dbms underscore output dot put underscore line. And then I'll say minimum salary must be 12,000. I'll say minimum salary must be 12,000. And then what I'll do is, so that is what happens, right? If I try to update and while updating, so I think I just missed a statement. I'm so sorry. So after calculating the reduction, I need to check, right? So what will I check? If my value comes out to be less than 12,000. So if the value comes out to be less than 12,000, what I'll do is I'll simply display a statement that the minimum salary must be 12,000. Must be 12,000. So I'll not allow the updation to go ahead. Instead, I'll simply display the statement. Otherwise, if after calculating the deduction, so let's say I calculate the deduction and it happens to be greater than 12,000, then what I do is I allow the updation to go ahead. So I say else, and I simply update my record. So I'll just copy this and I'll make the necessary changes so it will be faster for you. So I'll just copy this and I'll make the changes. So it's going to be updating the employee table. I want to set the salary and I want to set it. See, the changed value, the updated value is already stored in temp var. So instead of doing the calculation all over again, I can simply say set salary equal to temp var itself, where again I want to do it for the current row. So I need to keep this where clause that the ID attribute value is equal to the ID attribute value of the current row which I'm working with. Okay. So after I'm done with this, I'll simply say end if and I'll give a semicolon. So this brings an end to the inner if block. This is the inner if block. So this end if will bring an end to the inner if block. And then I'll say again end if and I'll give a semicolon and I'll end off my loop. So I'll say end loop. And finally, after I come out of my loop, I need to close my cursor. So I'll say close, CLOSE, close the name of the cursor, right? So that will close my cursor. And then finally, I'll end it using the end keyword. Now, after I'm done with this, before running this query, what I want you to do is, first let me clear the screen for you. Let me just clear the screen. Let me first enable, so I'll need to enable my output. So set server output on. If I don't do this, then the put line statement which you saw, the dbms underscore output dot put line, this statement that you saw, which I'm highlighting, this will not work. Okay, it will not display any output if I don't set the server output on. Now let me again clear the screen. So what I want you to do is, I want to show you a few values. So I want to show you, just give me a moment. I'll just copy this part. Let me just copy this part. I want to show you certain values. Okay, let me hit enter. Okay, so now you can see that these are your employees, these are the salary values, and these are the locations. What I want you to do is, you just pause the video for a moment, take a screenshot or make a note in your copy, and just look at the values. Okay, now after I run the queries, all you will see is a statement saying that the PLSQL method or the PLSQL block was executed successfully. You will not be able to see the output directly. Now, then again, when I'll run this query that you see above, which I've written to generate this output, then you will be able to see the updated values. So what I would request you to do is, you just take a snapshot of this, you pause the video and take a snapshot, and then you compare after I run the SQL code, the PLSQL block. So after I run the PLSQL block, you will see the updations have gone through, and I want you to verify whether they have gone through correctly or not. Okay, so let me just clear the screen again. I hope you have taken a screenshot or made a note in your copy. Now, if I paste this and if I hit /, and okay, I think I have a few error here. So just give me a moment while I rectify the errors. So if you observe here, I have missed a semicolon, and that's why I got a set of errors. So this is the problem that you face. Not a problem. This is one of the challenges of live coding. While recording a video, if you code, then you're bound to make these minor glitches, and they'll show up. So you can be embarrassed, or you can take charge and correct the errors. So I've made the changes. Hopefully I won't get any more errors. Now if I hit /, I can see that I have a few more errors. So you have to give me a few more moments. So a mistake that is often made is, for assignment, we have to use := I had used only equal to. So that gave the error that you saw. So please bear with me. I know it's taking a bit of time, but these typos often take place while you're coding, no matter how good you are at it. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but at least I give it a try, and most often I come up with errors. Let's see. And I can see that finally the PLSQL procedure successfully completed. Now I hope you have your screenshots ready with you, because I'm about to show you the output after the updation. So if I again take this piece of SQL statement, and if I show it to you, so let me just copy this, and if I paste it, and now if you compare, I think you are probably observing that for employees residing at Bangalore, Kolkata, the updations have gone ahead successfully. I clearly remembered that the first employee was receiving a salary of 40,000, and he was residing in Bangalore. He underwent a pay cut of 5%, and as a result, his salary reduced to 38,000. Similarly, employees residing at Kolkata, the second employee, if I remember correctly, was receiving a salary of 80,000. Now he has undergone a 10% increase. As a result, his salary has increased to 88,000. In this way, you can compare, and it's probably understood that it has gone ahead successfully. Now, I want to show you one last thing. Let me do one more insertion. Let's say I insert a new record. I can do this, right? So let's say I just copy this. I'll just copy this and I'll put it at the end. And I want to create another record for my employee table. Let's say I have an employee by the name of Suresh. I don't have any friends by the name of Suresh, so I can give him a pretty low salary to start with. So let's say he's receiving a salary of 12,000. This is allowed, right? Because if you remember, the constraint was that the employee should receive a salary of at least 12,000. That means 12,000 or above. Fine. Now, Suresh is working in the operations department, which is located at Bangalore. Now, all employees at Bangalore are undergoing a cut of 5%. Now, if I try to decrease Suresh's salary by 5%, so if I try to decrease 12,000 by 5%, I'll get a value which will violate this check constraint. And in order to stop that updation from going ahead, what would I do? I would display this statement, right? Like I've written in my PLSQL code, you can see that I would display the statement and I would prevent the updation from going ahead. Now let's see if this works or not. Let me try to insert this record and let me see if it works or not. So I'll paste this. The insertion will take place definitely. Now if I do a select, yes, I can see that Suresh's entry now appears in the last row. Now at this point, again, what I would request you to do is you take a screenshot of the table that you see on your screen where 8 rows have been selected. Now at this point, if I decide to run my PLSQL code again, I should see one statement saying that. So what should be the statement? The statement should be that the minimum salary must be 12,000, and this statement will be shown for the last employee which is receiving a salary of exactly 12,000. The updation will not go ahead for the last employee. I'll show you. See, I'll paste this, I'll hit /, and you can see that one statement has showed up which is saying that minimum salary must be 12,000. Now I'll show you that the updation for Suresh was blocked, quite rightly, right? Because Suresh is receiving a salary of only 12,000, and any deduction from that would bring it below the minimum permissible value. So if I do a select again, I can see that all employees residing at Bangalore and Kolkata have undergone changes, but Suresh, who was receiving a salary of 12,000 before the PLSQL code had been run, is still receiving a salary of 12,000. So the updation on Suresh was rightly blocked. If you remember here, see, the last employee, employee 8, was receiving a salary of 12,000, and even after I ran my PLSQL code, it's still receiving a salary of 12,000. I did not allow the updation to go ahead because it would violate my check constraint. So I hope this video was informative and it helps you to grasp more knowledge on PLSQL. As always, if you have any doubts, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you found this helpful, I would request you to share this video with your friends, and please subscribe to my channel to receive more such informative videos, and also encourage your friends to subscribe. So I hope this video helps. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.